As countries continue to take stronger measures to contain spread of COVID-19, self-quarantine as well as temporary closure of businesses may affect the normal food-related practices, and healthy individuals as well as those with acute respiratory symptoms are being requested to stay at home. And of course, the COVID-19 pandemic has focused attention on the role of immune system, with experts urging people to buy supplements, to eat particular foods to boost their immunity. The Ministry of Health recently told its citizens, or the Kenyans, to eat healthy to boost immunity for COVID, in the prevention of COVID-19. So tonight we really want to understand what is the link between nutrition, boosting of immunity, and the fight against the COVID-19, or preventing COVID-19, especially those with symptomatic illnesses. My guest tonight is Rose Wambo, who is a nutritionist, from the Ministry of Health, and she will be helping us with that discussion. It's good to be speaking with you, Rose. There are many questions and people already asking, what should we be eating during this time? Which foods can boost immunity? Which foods can prevent spread of COVID-19? Because right now there is no cure or vaccine for it. Welcome to the show. Let's talk about nutrition. What does it mean when we talk about nutrition, importance of nutrition? Tell us more about nutrition and boosting of immunity.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be here. As you heard, I'm Rose Wambo, and I would want first of all to tell you that nutrition is nourishing the body. Now this has 5 successive stages. One of them is taking in nutrients, that is when you are eating. That is what we call ingestion. Then there is absorption. There is assimilation. And then finally there is digestion. That is getting rid of whatever remains. So you see, in the event that any of these successive stages have been affected by anything, then definitely there's a problem. Now, we can also say nutrition is an art and also a science. The art is basically because it involves eating, arranging the food, in good presentation and taking them in. So both nutrition can be said to be an art and also a science. Yeah.
So what is good nutrition and poor nutrition, if I may say so? Arranging, most people don't understand what this means. And of course, with this coronavirus, most people have been rendered jobless. So you're just eating to fill your stomach. Let's talk more about importance of arrangement of what you're talking about. Good food, let's just talk about good nutrition first, and bad nutrition, if there's a one like that, in the nutrition agenda.
Thank you, Purity.
Yeah.
I think when we talk about good nutrition entails having a variety of foods which contain all the nutrients that are required by the body at a given time, depending on the age of the particular person, and to nourish and ensure that they're living well.
Yeah.
Now, this means one has all the recommended food groups, and these recommended food groups, maybe I can mention them. One, we talk of grains, tubers, and other starch producing foods. So that is the first group. So when we talk about these groups, that's what that entails. All that will give you starch. So there are several, and what is in your locality is what you should consume. So that people don't think that they should get millet from Kisumu, since it is what has been mentioned. It is good to use the locally available. Even in your locality, there is a cassava or muhogo, for that matter. use that muhogo. It can be boiled, it can be roasted, it can be done in, cooked in different styles.
And we'll get more into the food groups. We'll delve deeper into that. What's the relationship or the link between good nutrition and immunity, and vice versa, bad nutrition, when you're not following the food groups that you will be talking about them shortly? What does it mean for your immunity?
I think I will get there, because once you get to know the food groups, then you know all the nutrients will be in those 10 recommended food groups that we say at least for the diet to be adequate or optimal, you need at least 5 of the food groups. So I talked of the grains. Then the next group, I'll talk about the eggs. I'll talk about vegetables rich in vitamin A. Other types of vegetables also. The vegetables rich in vitamin A are those that are yellow or orange. Green leafy vegetables, which are green, dark green, which will contain a lot of vitamin A. Then we get to flesh. Flesh, here we are talking of all types of meats. And when I talk about the eggs, it is all types of eggs.
Sorry to cut you short. Are you breaking this down into, because most people are used to, there's starch, there's proteins, there's vitamins, or that's different when you look at food groups, because you're mentioning vegetables directly, you're mentioning flesh, you're mentioning not starch. Why are you not categorizing them into starch, proteins, and vitamins?
Sweetheart, nutrition is a dynamic field.
Okay.
When I was in school, we were talking about 3 food groups.
Yeah.
And balanced diet. Today we talk about variety of foods and the food groups. Okay. So this is one of the dynamics of nutrition, and we must appreciate that this is one of the fields that can change overnight. So with the food groups, what we look for is the nutrients therein. The nutrients now will be in terms of protein, carbohydrates, and vitamin A, B, C, D, and are they adequate? Because some foods will contain more nutrients than others. So when one has bad diet, a good diet is that has a variety. And for me, I say, the more the color, the better.
Okay, let's talk about the more the color, the better, the good diet.
Yes, that is now the good diet. Yeah. So you see, when one consumes a good diet, it helps the body to grow, one, reproduce, and also to protect itself against infections. And the virus is also part of the infection. Therefore, when you eat well, that is foods which are adequate in both amounts and in nutrient, that is they are nutrient dense, chances are that your body will be able to fight infections naturally. When you eat badly, now these are the bad foods which are full of sugars, added sugars, deep fried, what do I call them now? I'm even unable to mention them. Fats, trans fats. Then the fact still remains, these foods have junk food, they will contain empty calories. You will feel satisfied, but the fact remains, they do not have the nutrients that you're looking for. So instead of these foods helping you fight any infections or remaining healthy, they will help you wear off. People even age quickly simply because they ate poor diets. And these poor diets cannot make one grow. They'll rather make one get malnourished. Getting malnourished means either becoming underweight or overweight. And these are the problems that we are seeing today in the country.
Okay. Let's get back, Rose, to the good diet. I disrupted you when you're talking about the food groups.
Yes.
Let's talk about them.
All right. So, like I was saying, at least 5 food groups for an adult. And if it's for a pregnant mother, the recommendation for women in their reproductive age is that on the 10 food groups. So that, because the demands are higher, especially women when they start having their menses. The nutrients requirements go high. When they are developing, that is in their adolescent, they are developing their breasts and the reproductive system, they need a lot of nutrients. And so they have to be provided. So at least these require 4 to 5 food groups. So on the plate, basically, we need maybe to see a staple, some fruits, vegetables, vegetables which are yellow or deep orange, or other vegetables, you know, so that they can provide fiber to prevent against other diseases, prevent constipation, you know. And then there is then water. One needs at least 8 glasses of water. That is basically 2 liters, so that it can aid in digestion. It can also aid in circulation of blood, and prevent so many other things. You know, it also acts as a coolant. Therefore, on this plate, depending on the age of that person, we need to see the plate. Sometimes we say you can use your hands or household measures. So if it is a serving of ugali, which is using my palm, the size of my palm, 1 or 2 portions, depending on your size and your age. So somebody like me who is aged, you don't need so much, otherwise it will not be utilized. But if somebody is young, energetic, and again, depending on the work they are doing, then they will require slightly a higher amount. And then 3 main meals in a day. These 3 main meals in a day, that is, breakfast is a must. You take breakfast like a king. And then lunch like a queen. And dinner like a pauper. In between, you definitely take nutritious snacks. These nutritious snacks will be maybe a fruit, but not the junk that we've been seeing, like cakes, you know, because I will just add energy, and which causes the weight increase anyway. Therefore, when we are talking of good nutrition, it entails a lot, because you put into consideration the age of the person, the type of work that they do, whether they are sedentary, whether they are athletics, what they are. And then finally, you also consider the breakdown, you know. Yes, whether they are sick or not sick, that will determine the amount of energy that they require.
Yeah, and from what you're saying, breakfast is a must and should be heavy breakfast. So most of the people, the breakfast menu is usually tea and bread. Let's do recommendations for, because you've talked about having fruits, vegetables, of course, water staple. What exactly should you be having for breakfast? Should you have ugali, because you're saying you eat like a king? Heavy meal in the morning?
A meal. Yeah. I mean a meal. A plate, you know, just what you have for lunch. A whole plate with everything. If it is ugali with green vegetables, maybe an egg for protein, or some omena, or some, you know, let it be full. And then your fruit, at least, because when you leave your house, what you're doing, you're breaking a fast. You have fasted for the last 12 or so or more hours. Therefore, by breaking that fast, you cannot break it with water or tea. So you need to eat, and eat well in the morning. Then, as you move, you need energy, you know. You need energy to continue doing what you do best. Like, you need a lot of energy to continue speaking. And that speaking, you require, a lot of fruits, you know, to ensure that your GIT, your respiratory system is clear. You know, the mucous membranes are cleaned. They cannot be cleaned by drugs. They can only be cleansed by foods. And these are foods which will be rich in vitamin A. This vitamin A, as you know, is from fruits which are yellow or dark dark green leafy vegetables, yellow or dark orange. Yes.
All right, and what happens if, most people do the vice versa? You don't take breakfast, you take lunch, kidogo, but then dinner, because that's when you're resting, you're at home, you eat like a king. What happens?
Oh, yeah.
What's the danger of doing that?
This is where we have trouble.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, mal means it is something has malformed or is not working. So when you start eating the wrong times, the wrong foods, and the wrong amounts, what happens is that you become malnourished. That means you eat during the wrong time. If you are taking that full plate in the evening when you're going to sleep, you're going to sleep. Therefore, your body is not working. Your body all that energy will store and will start again working, will be digested in the morning. That means your system is clogged. The fact that your system is clogged, it starts working in the morning. Then what you eat that particular time in the morning cannot be digested because already there's a backlog. You see, it's like a pipe that has been clogged, and it has to be unclogged. You can imagine how many minutes a plumber takes to unclog a pipe. The same thing happens. So your system starts working negatively on you. Some of the food, because of staying in the body, becomes toxic, like I have told you, the 5 successive stages. If you are eating and the food is not being expelled, you get into trouble. You will get constipated, and you cannot even be at peace. So that is basically what happens. So you are always full, fatigued, and the like. Yeah.
Okay. Let's revisit the bad eating habits, the bad foods. You said foods with sugar, deep fried foods, fats, junk that contains empty calories.
Yes, with the highly refined foods, and this is what we see in the flours, some of the flours which are highly refined, where the husk is removed and everything. Chances are that all the fiber has been removed. Therefore, when you take these foods which are highly refined, they expose you to inflammation. And the moment they expose you to inflammation, what is getting inflamed is not you as Rose. It is the inside of your body. That means your body cells are inflamed. So in the event that any infection comes, that cell is already inflamed. So you can imagine. So it is at risk of that exposure. Therefore, the infection now expose the individual to worse disease or more infections.
Yeah, and right now, because of the coronavirus, most people are staying at home. So when they eat like a king in the morning and they're still staying indoors and take lunch and dinner, there are no physical activities happening. Is there a danger to that, or what should they be doing right now when you just eat as you have recommended, Rose, but I'm staying at home? Is there a difference?
Yes, there's a big difference. And yes, we say eat healthy, optimal nutrition, but we don't say go overboard, okay? Everything must be measured. And when you say you measure the amount of food that you're taking. Then we also say at least ensure you have some time for exercises. These exercises do not just mean that it doesn't mean that you have to run to town so that you can believe you have done exercises. They are simple exercises that can be done within the household. Doing the household chores is one of the way of doing the exercises. Maybe gardening around the house if there is a garden, cleaning the house itself, washing, and then if that needs to be added, you can have a rope, skip, and do the small aerobics within the house, dancing, and it makes one feel fresh, it makes one feel good, and you don't feel that fatigue. And then you burn some of those calories. because now most of the times you're not going far and you're not doing the kind of work that you're used to doing before, was being done before the COVID-19 era.
Okay, let's talk about the conditions that are associated with lacking the nutrients that you're talking about and having them in excess.
Good. So some of the things that we see and we've been seeing is that when you have excess nutrients, you develop obesity. You become, first of all, you become overweight, then you become obese, and there are dangers in developing obesity and also becoming overweight because of what I've said, having more energy than the body requires. Therefore, what happens is the body stores. And when the body stores, remember these nutrients, excessive nutrients are stored in the body. They are converted into adipose tissue and stored as fats along either the arms, the bum bum, and all that. So for Africans, we say that's us. But nutritionally, we say each person at a certain height requires to be at a certain level of nutrition, and this is what we do through nutrition assessment. So every particular person will be different from the other because we take your weight, we take your height, we calculate and then get your body mass index. That is when we gauge now you and classify you according to your body mass index and see whether you are underweight, you are normal, you are overweight, you are obese, obese morbid, obese, then that tells us either if you are from the people who are underweight and the ones, severely underweight, and the ones who are morbid, obese are the same. The risk is the same. You are underweight. Those who are under are at risk of developing malnutrition-related issues, that which you don't have enough energy, you cannot do anything for yourself, you are too wasted, you can't stand by yourself, you cannot even mob. The other one cannot also do the same things and is at risk of developing high blood pressure, cardiac problems, diabetes, all the non-communicable diseases, including cancers. Yeah, so therefore, these two people are at risk of developing infections, and because their immunity is low. And that is why these are the predisposing factors. So if one has a disease, chronic disease like that, they are told to stay home, and ensure they are taking precautions, wearing a mask, respiratory health, and to ensure that at least they do not get anywhere where the droplets of the infection could be.
Yeah.
Since their immunity is low.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let's now get to the immunity, excess nutrition and malnutrition, how it affects your immunity, because you talked about some conditions that develop when you have excess, when you're obese, or when you lack the required nutrition. But why is this again linked to the young people and the older people? They are said to have lower immunity.
Okay. What I didn't mention is that there are people who are more vulnerable than others. Now, in communities, we have people who are more vulnerable than others. And some of these people are pregnant women, because already they are pregnant, they are carrying others, and the situation changes. The hormonal changes within the body such that it makes their immune systems misbehave. Then there is one who has just given birth to a child below 6 months and they are breastfeeding. They are also at risk. and because the immunity is low, the child below 6 months, whose immunity has not fully developed, then the child between the age of 6 months and 2 years. This is, we call this the window of opportunity. This is an age where so many opportunistic infections get to these children. They are quite active at this stage, and remember, their immunity is not fully developed. Then there is the elderly. The elderly, because you know the stage at which they are in is, they have gone an extra mile, and their body systems are depreciating. Yeah.
And you said healthy eating improves your immunity. Maybe you can make us understand having good immunity, what it means for your body, why it's important to have improved immunity.
Okay. What we see is we have the T helper cells, which are within our bodies, and they help us repulse or fight against infections. Now, what I want to tell you is that we have proteins and we have hormones, and most of the body metabolisms and mechanisms are controlled by hormones. These are protein in nature. Now, the factors that creates immunity are also protein in nature. And proteins are actually building blocks of life. So these blocks which are built are your body cells. And these cells, if they are permeable, because you have exposed them to refined foods, sugars, and the like, they become porous. Anything will move in, you know. That is when now the immunity is low. It is like a shell, you know, which has the sides removed and anything can pass through. But where the body is strong, the building blocks are strong, the white blood cells will fight against any infection that comes in. And that's why you hear, even in some events, some people will get infected with the virus and be able to fight it off. Others will have just mild symptoms, others will have moderate, and others it will be very severe, depending on the body's immune system. Therefore, nutrition is very, very important in that it helps now build that immunity. And the first immunity is on breast milk. Breast milk helps the infant build that immunity, and the colostrum, the first milk which is given to the baby, or which is produced by the mother and given to the baby, is like a vaccine against any infections. So that means that child is already like protected by the anti-infective factors which are found in breast milk. And maybe that can explain why most of the infants are not developing that. And God knows, he has a way of protecting his people. He knows they are at risk, and he knows we need them to continue with the world, to continue the world. And
is that why people are being Kenyans now, because the Minister of Health in the last 2 weeks has been talking about Kenyans, they need to develop good eating habits to boost their immunity in the fight against coronavirus. What's the link?
Yes, like I have said, you don't just eat, you eat healthy. And like I have said again, you start with breastfeeding, and then complementary feeding. After the 6 months of complementary feeding, we still emphasize on giving the babies adequate foods frequently, depending on which is on their age, and give the appropriate consistency so that they can be able to build their own immunity, to get energy, to continue, you know. And that will help them build their protective system. Yes. And now, so after that, what we do is we also boost their immunity by giving vitamin A, which is vital for strengthening the immunity. So we give that until they are 5 years, every 6 months. Yes, and even now we are saying that there is a coronavirus. Those who have children and their children are at the age of 6 months or 12 months, they should be taken to the facility to receive their vitamin A.
Yeah.
Yes.
And does eating healthy, why is it a concern, and why is your department of nutrition advising the Minister of Health or Kenyans to eat healthy? Does it have anything to do with the recovery of cases that we are seeing because there's no treatment or vaccine yet? Thank you.
Yeah, like when immunity is good, you will be able to repulse the infection. Therefore, that will help you live longer because you are keeping diseases, infections at bay, you know. And if you don't eat well, then if you don't eat well and even want to take supplements, remember the supplements are not the same as the food. You must eat food, and ours is even to advise other ministries, like for example Ministry of Agriculture, to help farmers grow crops which are rich in the vitamins that are required to help in the body, not just foods, because the crops will bring in money, you see. So definitely we as a Ministry of Health and Nutrition Department for that matter, we say nutrition forms a basis for health, and this basis for health helps reduce the diseases, that is the morbidity and the mortality. So when you are sick, by being given the right foods, you will take a short duration of time under that treatment because your immune system is working well than somebody else whose immune system is not working.
Okay.
And that tells you now we help reduce the hospital stay. That means by reducing the hospital stay, the government also will have a saving. If we do not help in doing that, resuscitating somebody in either high dependency unit or in ICU is very expensive. And most of the things that are given there are actually nutritional. Because then once you are sick and you get to that stage, chances are that to maintain you, we can only use either parenteral or enteral nutrition. And these products are extremely expensive. Maybe that can explain what is happening, because when enteral and parenteral feeds are given, it is not just like ugali and sukuma wiki. Now it has gone beyond. That person cannot be able to digest. That person cannot be able to absorb. So they will have to take foods in their last or in their finest form. That is, if it is protein, you get protein in form of amino acids. If it is carbohydrates, you will get that in form of glucose. And if it is fats, you get it in form of lipids and in calculated granules. And that is very, very expensive. Maybe that can explain why most of the money, and people are hearing, especially the allocation for foods, and many people make fun saying that it's just tea and mandazi. This is not tea and mandazi. This is feeding patients is very, very expensive. It's an expensive venture. And this feeding, remember, if these people came and were quarantined in the institutions, they will feed there. And what we say is, if they are being quarantined in hotels or in their homes or even in the government institutions, then they have to ensure that they eat well. The 3 meals, which contain at least the 4 to 5 food groups, and 4 food groups for children, that is. So this has to happen. And Rose, even in your own household, food is very expensive, isn't it? Yes. And if you have to eat well, then you have to consider food that is nutrient dense. that is, this is the nutrients I require, and this is what I'm going for.
We have a minute to wind up, but we cannot wind up before we talk about the COVID-19 management guidelines by the Minister of Health. Can you quickly go through them kindly? Time is
yes.
not on our side.
These guidelines, we have produced nutrition guidelines, and these guidelines are to the general public, just a guide to help people eat healthy, especially during this time, so that they may improve or increase their, strengthen their immunity. And this is where we have said the food groups to be eaten, and the foods, you know, just like a few of the foods. And as I said earlier, the foods will depend on where you are. If you are in Bungoma and you have the yellow, freshly yellow sweet potato, kindly go for it. If you are in Ukambani and there is muhogo, you know, so we are trying to say that a variety of foods.
Yeah.
And
so where
like, can
we get the guidelines?
Yes. So now with the guidelines is what a mother should feed on if she is pregnant. These are 3 main meals and 2 extra meals and for the day, and 2 nutritious snacks. And if she is breastfeeding, she will get 2 extra meals, small meals.
From the 3
yes,
meals? Okay.
Yes, on top of the 3. And for the children, then if the child is 6 months, 6 to 7, 7 to 8, and we divide the months. So you start complementary feeding, 2 spoons, 2 to 3 spoons. If the child is 1 year, then that child should be taken to the family pot and given at least a half a cup, you know. Then we get to, and we say, you know, more frequently, at least 5, you know, small meals for that one. And all the food groups, foods from the recommended 5, at least 5. Minimum 5. The maximum is 10 food groups, but minimum, at least for children, is 5.
Right.
And for adults, 4 to 5. So these basically will give, will help the communities create, become healthy and remain healthy. And remember to do exercises. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rose Wambu, thank you so much for your time. We have to wrap it up at that point. Time is not on our side, but you'll have this discussion again. Thank you so much, Rose. That was insightful. And thank you all for watching Channel 1 Weekend this Sunday. It's been great having you company. I'm Purity Museo. Thank you for your feedback. I can't go through it, but of course I'll be reading it off air. Lensa Odingo has been our sign language interpreter tonight. Good night. God bless. Stay safe.